Disclaimer.
I died and saw the card I had sent me to hell.
My name is Carolyn Mae Hutchinson. I am 41 years old. I died for 9 minutes on February 13, 2021 in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada.
For 16 years, I had been married to Andrew. Before I begin, if God brought you here, subscribe and stay with me. He was a good man, a faithful man, the kind of man who woke up at 5 in the morning to work construction sites in the freezing Alberta winters, came home covered in dust and exhaustion, and never once complained. He provided. He protected. He loved me in the quiet, steady way that some men do, the way that does not need words or grand gestures. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing that love as enough. I told myself it was not his fault. He was tired. He was stretched thin. We had bills to pay, a mortgage to keep, a life to maintain. But when he came home each night, he had nothing left for me. No conversation. No emotional energy. Just silence. He would sit in front of the television, eat dinner, and fall asleep on the couch before 9. And I felt invisible. I was leading worship at Cornerstone Fellowship Church. I poured everything into that role. I sang with passion. I prayed with conviction. I stood on that platform every Sunday and lifted my hands to God while voices joined mine in praise. People told me I had a gift. They told me my worship brought them closer to the Lord. But at home, I felt empty. When the pandemic hit in March 2020, everything changed. Our church moved online. Services became virtual. Prayer meetings became video calls. I helped organize an online prayer group for our congregation, and that is when I met Ethan. He was a worship pastor from Saskatchewan. His church had gone online too. He joined our prayer group one evening, and I noticed him immediately. Not because of how he looked, but because of how he spoke. He prayed with emotion. He shared his struggles openly. He talked about feeling distant from his wife, about losing connection in his marriage, about the loneliness that comes when you serve God but feel unseen at home. I understood him. We started praying together privately. It began innocently. A direct message after a group call. A quick prayer request. Then it became scheduled video calls, late at night, after Andrew had fallen asleep. We prayed for each other. We encouraged each other. We shared things I had stopped sharing with my husband. I convinced myself it was ministry. I told myself we were just helping each other spiritually. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I started looking forward to Ethan's messages more than Andrew's presence. I dressed differently on days we had scheduled calls. I checked my phone constantly. I hid the screen when Andrew walked by. And I refused to call it what it was. Then came early February 2021. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard the mail truck pull up outside. It was a Saturday morning. Andrew was at a job site. I walked to the mailbox in my slippers, breath fogging in the cold air, and pulled out a small stack of envelopes. Bills. Flyers. And then, a card. It was addressed to me. Handwritten. No return address. My hands started trembling before I even opened it. I tore the envelope carefully and pulled out a Valentine's card. On the front was a simple image, a candle glowing in the darkness. I opened it slowly. The handwritten note inside read, "You have been a light in my darkest season. Thank you for seeing me. Ethan." My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I looked around even though no one was there. I read it again. And again. Heat flooded my face. My hands would not stop shaking. I should have thrown it away. I should have told Andrew. I should have ended it right there. But I did not. I walked back into the house, went straight to our bedroom, and hid the card in my desk drawer under old journals and papers. I buried it deep where no one would find it. An hour later, Andrew came home. He kissed my forehead, smelled like sawdust and cold air, and asked, "Anything comes in the mail?" I smiled. Just church stuff. The lie came so easily. Over the next week, I texted Ethan more than I texted my husband. I stayed up late talking to him while Andrew slept. I shared my frustrations, my dreams, my fears. I gave him pieces of my heart I had stopped giving to the man I made vows with. And I justified every moment of it. February 13th arrived, the day before Valentine's Day. Our church was hosting a special worship night that evening, and I was leading it. I woke up at 4 in the morning because Ethan had sent me a long message the night before. I sat in the dark kitchen, phone glowing in my hands, reading his words over and over. Andrew stirred upstairs. I locked my screen. By afternoon, I was at the church setting up. My chest felt tight. I had not slept. Guilt and excitement were fighting inside me, twisting together until I could not tell them apart anymore. I was adjusting the microphone stand behind the altar when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Ethan, praying for you tonight. You are going to lead beautifully. I smiled. And then my chest exploded in pain. The pain was not like anything I had ever felt before. It started in the center of my chest, sharp, crushing, like someone had driven a steel rod through my ribcage. My left arm went numb instantly. The microphone stand slipped from my fingers and crashed to the floor with a metallic clang that echoed through the empty sanctuary. I tried to call out, but no sound came. My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the altar to steady myself, but my grip was weak. My vision blurred. The lights above me seemed to dim and pulse. I fell. My body hit the carpet behind the altar with a dull thud. I could hear footsteps running toward me. Voices shouting my name. Carolyn. Carolyn, can you hear me? Someone call 911. Now. I could see their faces hovering above me. Patricia, one of the deacons. Mark, the sound technician. Their mouths were moving, but their voices sounded distant, like I was underwater. I wanted to tell them I was okay. I wanted to sit up, but my body would not respond. My chest felt heavy. So heavy. Like something was pressing down on it, squeezing the air out of my lungs. And then, everything shifted. I was no longer lying on the floor. I was floating above it. I could see my body below me, pale, still, lying on the carpet with one arm stretched out awkwardly. Patricia was kneeling beside me, shaking my shoulder. Mark was on the phone, his voice cracking as he gave the address to the dispatcher. I tried to scream. I tried to reach out. But I had no voice. No hands. I was there, but I was not. The paramedics arrived within minutes. I watched them rush in with their equipment, their uniforms crisp and professional, their movements quick and practiced. They knelt beside my body, checked my pulse, ripped open my shirt, and began chest compressions. One of them shouted, "No pulse." Starting CPR. I felt nothing. No pain. No pressure. Just a strange, detached awareness. They loaded me onto a stretcher and rushed me out of the church. I followed. Or rather, I was pulled along, tethered to my body by something I could not see or understand. The ambulance doors slammed shut. The siren wailed. Red and blue lights flashed through the small windows. The paramedic leaned over me, pressing an oxygen mask to my face, pumping my chest rhythmically. "Stay with us, Carolyn. Stay with us." But I was not there anymore. I could see my phone lying on the church floor near the altar. The screen was still lit. Ethan's name glowed at the top of the message thread. And beside it, my lock screen photo. Andrew's face. Smiling. Taken 3 years ago on a camping trip we took to Banff. I stared at that image and something inside me cracked. What have I done? The thought was small at first. Quiet. But it grew louder. Heavier. What have I done? The ambulance sped through the streets of Red Deer. I could feel the turns, the stops, the acceleration. But I was no longer inside. I was hovering somewhere above the chaos, watching my life unravel in slow motion. And then, the pull began. It was not physical. It was deeper than that. Spiritual. Like invisible hands had wrapped around my soul and were dragging me downward. I tried to resist. I tried to hold on to something, anything. But there was nothing to grip. Nothing to anchor me. The lights inside the ambulance began to fade. The voices grew distant. The siren became a faint hum. And then, silence. Complete, suffocating silence. I was no longer in the ambulance. I was no longer in Red Deer. I was somewhere else entirely. Darkness surrounded me. Not the kind of darkness you see when you close your eyes at night. This was different. This was thick, heavy, alive. It pressed against me from all sides, wrapping around my body like wet cloth. I tried to breathe, but the air was wrong. It was hot, dense. It burned my lungs with every inhale. I looked down and I saw ground beneath my feet. It was not dirt. It was not stone. It looked like scorched gravel, rough, uneven, unstable. Heat radiated from it in waves, though I saw no fire. I tried to move, but my legs felt weak. My entire body trembled. Where am I? The question echoed in my mind, but no answer came. And then I heard it. A voice. Faint at first. Distant. Barely audible over the sound of my own heartbeat. It was a cry. A wail. Soft, broken, filled with despair. Then another voice joined it. And another. And another. Soon, there were dozens. Hundreds. Thousands. Layered over each other in a chorus of anguish that made my stomach turn. They were not screaming. They were weeping. Pleading. Calling out names. I turned in every direction, trying to find the source, but I saw nothing. Just shadows. Flickering at the edges of my vision. When I turned to look directly at them, they vanished. The heat grew stronger. The air grew thicker. I could smell something metallic, like burnt copper mixed with smoke. It clung to the back of my throat. I took a step forward, and the ground shifted beneath me. I nearly fell. My hands shot out to catch myself, but there was nothing to grab. I steadied myself and looked ahead. And that is when I saw them. Silhouettes. Human shapes. Standing alone in separate spaces scattered across the darkness. Some were kneeling. Some were sitting. Some were standing motionless, staring at nothing. I took another step closer. One of them was a woman. She was reaching out toward something I could not see. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. She repeated the same motion over and over, reaching, grasping, pulling back empty hands. Another was a man. He was pacing back and forth in a small circle, muttering something under his breath. His head was down. His shoulders slumped. I moved past them and I saw more. Dozens more. All alone. All trapped in their own isolated torment. And then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Many of them were wearing wedding rings. I stopped walking. My breath caught in my throat. A woman to my left was calling out a name. Michael. Michael, please. I am sorry. But Michael was not there. A man to my right was staring at an empty doorway, whispering, I only wanted to talk to her. It was just conversation. I felt my chest tighten. My hands began to shake. What is this place? I turned slowly, taking in the scene around me. And then I saw something that made my stomach drop. Piles of burning paper. Scraps of letters. Cards. Messages. All of them curling and blackening in flames that gave off no light. I stepped closer and saw words written on them. You make me feel alive. I think about you all the time. Thank you for understanding me. Valentine's cards. Love letters. Messages that should have been sent to spouses, but were not. I watched as flowers wilted and crumbled to dust. As photographs turned to ash. As gifts melted into nothing. And above it all, a single truth echoed through the air, not spoken, but felt. You chose another heart and lost your own. The words hit me like a physical blow. My knees buckled. I fell to the ground, hands pressed against the scorched surface. No, this cannot be real. But even as I thought it, I knew it was a lie. This was real. This was hell. And I was standing in it. A shadow moved beside me. I turned sharply, heart pounding, but saw nothing. Just the flicker of movement at the corner of my vision. Then I felt it. A presence. Not human. Not physical. But undeniable. It was behind me. I could feel its weight pressing down on the air around me. My entire body went rigid. I wanted to run, but my legs would not move. And then, a voice. It did not come from outside. It came from within. Deep. Resonant. Piercing straight through my soul. You justified it as ministry, but I saw your heart. I gasped. Tears streamed down my face. My hands trembled violently. No, I was just helping him. We were just praying. The presence did not respond. But the air grew heavier. Hotter. The ground beneath me seemed to pulse with heat. I looked up, and I saw something that made every part of me freeze. A figure stood in the distance. Radiant. Overwhelming. Wrapped in light so bright I could not look directly at it. But I felt its gaze. And I knew it saw everything. The light did not move, but I felt it pulling me forward. Not physically. Spiritually. Like a rope tied around my chest, dragging me toward something I was not ready to face. I tried to look away, but I could not. My eyes were locked on that radiant figure. And then, the air shifted. The figure raised one hand, and the darkness around me seemed to peel back like a curtain being drawn. The veil lifted, and I saw people. Souls. Men and women dressed in clothing from different eras, different cultures, different walks of life. But they all had one thing in common. They were all calling out names that were not their spouses. A woman in a business suit stood frozen, her hand reaching toward a phone that was not there. Her lips moved silently, repeating the same phrase over and over. I was just talking to him. It was just friendship. A man in jeans and a t-shirt knelt on the ground, head in his hands, whispering, I never touched her. I never touched her. Another woman, younger, maybe in her 30s, was staring at a pile of ashes at her feet. Her wedding ring glinted in the faint light. She was crying, but no tears fell. It was just messages, just messages. I felt my throat tighten. My chest burned. The figure spoke again. This time, the voice was clearer, stronger. It filled the entire space around me. You called it friendship. I called it adultery of the heart. My word does not change because you renamed the sin. I shook my head. My voice cracked as I tried to respond. But we never touched, we never. The light flared brighter, and I had to shield my face. Do you not know that I see beyond flesh? I see the intentions of the heart. I see where affection is given. I see where loyalty is broken. You gave your emotional intimacy to a man who was not yours. You hid conversations. You deleted messages. You lied to the man I gave you in covenant. That is theft. That is betrayal. That is adultery. The words cut through me like a blade. I collapsed forward, hands pressed against the scorched ground, sobbing. I did not mean to. You knew. The voice was not angry. It was not condemning. It was simply true. And that truth was unbearable. You knew when you started hiding your phone. You knew when you dressed differently for his calls. You knew when you looked forward to his words more than your husband's presence. You knew when you hid that card in your drawer. You knew. I could not speak. I could not defend myself. Because every word was accurate. The light dimmed slightly and the figure stepped closer. I still could not see a face. But I felt the weight of its presence, holy, righteous, unshakable. Your husband prayed for you every night. While you gave pieces of your heart to another man, Andrew knelt beside your bed and asked me to protect you, to keep you, to draw you closer to me. He loved you quietly, faithfully, without condition. And you sought affirmation from a stranger. My sobs grew louder. My entire body shook. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Millions of marriages fall because someone believed hidden affection was harmless. They convinced themselves that emotional connection is not betrayal. But I created marriage as a covenant, not just of body, but of heart, mind, and soul. When you give any part of that covenant to another, you break what I have joined. The figure raised its hand again, and the scene around me changed. I was no longer standing in the dark realm. I was somewhere else. I saw myself, not as I was now, but as I had been over the past year. I watched as the scene unfolded like a film playing before my eyes. I saw myself sitting at my kitchen table late at night, phone in hand, smiling at a message from Ethan while Andrew slept upstairs. I saw myself in the bathroom, checking my reflection before a video call, adjusting my hair, putting on lipstick I never wore for my husband anymore. I saw myself lying in bed beside Andrew, his arm draped over me, while I stared at my phone under the covers, typing messages to another man. I saw the moment I stopped praying with Andrew. The night I told him I was tired when he tried to talk. The morning I snapped at him for no reason because I had been up late texting Ethan. I saw every deleted message, every hidden notification, every lie, and then I saw the card. I watched myself open it at the mailbox. I watched my hands tremble. I watched myself hide it in the drawer. I watched Andrew walk in and ask about the mail. I watched myself smile and lie to his face. Just church stuff. The scene froze. The voice spoke again, quieter now, but no less piercing. This is the truth you refuse to see. I fell to my knees, hands covering my face, weeping uncontrollably. I thought I was just lonely. You thought you could justify sin by calling it something else. You thought hiding it from your husband meant hiding it from me. But I see all things. And I judge the heart. The images shifted again. This time I saw Ethan. He was sitting in his own home, staring at his phone, smiling at my messages while his wife cooked dinner in the next room. I saw him delete our conversations. I saw him justify it the same way I had. Just encouragement. Just prayer. Just friendship. And I realized we were both lying. To ourselves. To our spouses. To God. The voice continued. You poured into him what belonged to your husband. You gave him the attention, the affection, the emotional energy that was meant for the man you vowed before me to honor. You celebrated connection with another man on the day meant to honor love within covenant. That is not ministry. That is betrayal. I could not breathe. The weight of it all crushed me. I did not mean for it to go this far. But it did. And millions more are walking the same path. They believe that as long as they do not touch, it is not sin. They believe that as long as no one knows, it does not matter. But I know. And on the day of judgment, every hidden thing will be revealed. The light grew brighter, and I felt something shift inside me. The figure leaned closer, and for the first time, I heard something in the voice I had not heard before. Sorrow. You were called to lead worship. To lead others into my presence. But how can you lead others to holiness when you are living in hidden compromise? How can you sing of purity when your heart is divided? I wept harder. My hands clawed at the ground. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Return. Repent. Rebuild what you have broken. And warn them. Warn those who think emotional infidelity is not adultery. Warn those who hide behind spiritual language to justify sinful affection. Warn them that hell is real. Judgment is real. And time is shorter than they think. The scene around me began to dissolve. The silhouettes faded. The burning letters turned to smoke. The heat lessened. But the weight of what I had seen remained. The voice spoke one final time. Go. And do not return to the sin that brought you here. And then, everything went black. The darkness shattered like glass. A burst of light tore through the suffocating blackness with violent force. I felt myself being pulled upward, not gently, but with a strength that left no room for resistance. It was like a rope had been tied around my chest, and someone was yanking me back with everything they had. The heat faded. The cries grew distant. The scorched ground disappeared beneath me. I was moving fast. Too fast. My spirit felt like it was being dragged through layers of existence I could not name or understand. And then, pain. Sharp, sudden, unbearable pain exploded in my chest. Air rushed into my lungs with a violent gasp that burned my throat. My back arched off a hard surface. Voices erupted around me. "We have her back. We have a pulse. Carolyn. Carolyn, stay with us." My eyes flew open. Bright fluorescent lights blinded me. I tried to scream, but all that came out was a strangled cry. My hands gripped at something, a blanket, a stretcher, I could not tell. Faces hovered above me. Paramedics. Nurses. Their mouths were moving, but I could barely hear them over the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Blood pressure stabilizing. Oxygen levels rising. "Keep monitoring her." She was gone for 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I had been dead for 9 minutes. My body was shaking uncontrollably. My chest ached with every breath. Tears streamed down my face, hot and uncontrollable. I was back. But I was not the same. The ambulance doors were still open. I could see the sky outside, gray, cold, ordinary. But it looked different now. Everything looked different. They wheeled me into Red Deer Regional Hospital. The hallway lights blurred as we moved. Doctors and nurses surrounded me, checking vitals, asking questions I could not answer. "Carolyn, can you hear me? Do you know where you are?" I nodded weakly, but I could not speak. My throat felt raw. My mind was still reeling from what I had seen. They transferred me to a bed in the ICU. Monitors beeped steadily beside me. And 4 dripped into my arm. A nurse adjusted the blanket over my trembling body. And then I saw him. Andrew. He was standing in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes red and swollen. His work boots were still covered in mud. He had come straight from the job site. When he saw me awake, his face crumpled. He rushed to my bedside and grabbed my hand, his grip tight and desperate. "Carolyn, oh God, Carolyn." He pressed my hand to his forehead and wept. His shoulders shook. His breath came in ragged gasps. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. All I could do was cry. He did not know. He did not know what I had done. He did not know about Ethan. He did not know about the card hidden in my drawer. He did not know about the lies. But I knew. And I could not carry it anymore. "Andrew." I whispered, my voice broken and hoarse. He looked up, his eyes searching mine. "I need to tell you something." The words came slowly at first. Painful. Like pulling shards of glass from an open wound. I told him everything. I told him about the loneliness I had felt. About the online prayer group. About Ethan. About the late-night video calls and the messages I had hidden. About the emotional intimacy I had given to another man while my husband slept in the next room. I told him about the Valentine's card. About the lie I had told when he asked about the mail. And I told him about what I had seen when I died. Andrew sat beside me silent, his hand still holding mine. His face was unreadable. I could not tell if he was angry, heartbroken, or numb. Maybe all three. When I finished, the room fell into silence. The only sound was the steady beep of the heart monitor and my own shallow breathing. Then Andrew spoke. His voice was quiet, steady, but I could hear the pain beneath it. I knew something was wrong. I felt it, but I did not know what. I thought it was me. That I was not enough for you. Fresh tears spilled down my face. It was never you, Andrew. It was me. I was selfish. I was blind. I convinced myself it was harmless. But it was not. It was betrayal. He looked down at our joined hands. His thumb traced over my wedding ring. "I prayed for you every night," he said softly. "Even when I was too tired to talk. Even when we had not spoken all day. I prayed that God would protect you. That He would keep your heart close to His." Those words broke me. I sobbed. Not the quiet kind of crying, but the deep, body-shaking kind that comes from a place of pure shame and regret. Andrew pulled me into his arms and held me as I wept. He did not say it was okay. He did not say he forgave me right away. But he held me. And that was more than I deserved. Over the next 3 days in the hospital, we talked. We cried. We prayed. I confessed everything to our pastor. I blocked Ethan's number. I deleted every message. I threw away the card. And I began the long, painful process of rebuilding what I had broken. When I was released from the hospital, I stepped down from leading worship. I could not stand on that platform and lead others into God's presence when I had been living in hidden sin. I needed time to heal, to repent, to restore my relationship with Andrew and with God. We started marriage counseling. It was hard. There were days when Andrew could not look at me, days when the hurt was too fresh. But he chose to stay. He chose to fight for our marriage. And slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild. I learned something in those months of restoration. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28, "Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Adultery is not just physical. It is not just about what you do with your body. It is about where you give your heart. I had given my heart to another man. I had shared my thoughts, my emotions, my struggles with someone who was not my husband. And in God's eyes, that was adultery. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." I did not guard my heart. I let loneliness become an excuse. I let emotional needs become a justification for sin. And I almost lost everything. The warning I received in that place, it was not just for me. It was for everyone who thinks hidden affection does not count. For everyone who believes that as long as no one knows, it does not matter. For everyone who is celebrating Valentine's Day in their heart with someone who is not their spouse. God sees. He knows. And He will judge. If you are reading this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you are hiding conversations, deleting messages, emotionally investing in someone outside your marriage, please stop. Do not wait until it is too late. Do not wait until you are standing where I stood, realizing that what you called friendship was actually betrayal. Repent. Confess. Cut off the relationship. Rebuild your marriage. Guard your heart. Because hell is real. Judgment is real. And the consequences of hidden sin are far greater than we can imagine. If you are still here, thank you. Please subscribe if you want more testimonies like this. I want to pray for you tonight. Tell me where you are watching from. I believe God brought you to this video for a reason. And if you are struggling, if you are in a place where you know something is wrong but you have been too afraid to face it, please listen. Turn back. Choose life. Choose your covenant. Choose obedience. Because the path I walked leads to destruction. But there is still time to turn around.